Hello, I'm retired Battalion Chief Larry Cockman from the Greensboro, North Carolina Fire Department History Book Committee. We're here today at the Greensboro Historical Museum. I'm standing in front of the General Greene, the first steam pumper, or as they called it back then, the steamer. Today, December 9th, 2019, we are starting a new tradition of recording and preserving the heritage and culture of our retirees. Our retirees have contributed so much to the success of our great fire department. Their stories retire with them and are sometimes gone forever when they pass away. They will share their emergency calls that will always be a part of their memories forever. So sit back and listen as they carry us through their journey in the Greensboro Fire Department.
Okay, my name is Bryant Keith Staples. My age today is 61. At retirement, I was assistant chief in the Greensboro Fire Department. 32 actual years and 2 years of sick time, so they credit me with 34 years of service. Born and raised in Greensboro. I had a son that was on the Greensboro Fire Department. Well, my story is kind of interesting. Before I joined the Greensboro Fire Department, I recently got married, had a son, and recently a college grad. So I knew I had to go to work. And my story was, believe it or not, I had 3 part-time jobs. Monday through Friday, I worked at Kaiser Middle School as in-school suspension officer. At night, I worked at the Parks and Recreation Center from 7 to 10. And then on the weekends, I worked at the city lakes. I relieved the lake warden. I worked Sundays and Saturdays. So I was looking for a full-time job with benefits. Well, the reason I ended up at the fire department was one day I saw Mike Henson. I knew Mike Henson, I knew several firefighters because they played basketball with my brother. And I saw Mike Henson downtown one day after I had got off of work from the school. And he told me that the Greensboro Fire Department was hiring. And I actually went in and put in an application that day, and luckily, I was hired on my first time. The process for me getting hired at the Greensboro Fire Department was I went out to the training center. They had this obstacle course that you set up. I was a basketball player, so the obstacle course wasn't really that tough for me. I was 23, 24 years old, so I was in good shape. Then we had an interview process after that. I can remember interviewing with, at the time I didn't know who he was, but one of the chiefs, and it seemed like all the chiefs upstairs had white hair. And later known it was Chief Kent. And the man literally scared me to death, the question he was asking me, because I hadn't, the first time I had been faced with some questions, and he didn't laugh, he didn't smile, he was just straightforward. And when I walked out of the interview, I said, I don't have this job. And I got a call that I was hired. My starting salary was somewhere around $12,000, $13,000, something like that, yearly, yes. Yes, my training class consisted of 31 people from Greensboro. We had an extra person from from Salisbury, a guy named Kidd. So our class consisted of 31, but 30 from Greensboro. And our training lasted 13 weeks. And the reason why it lasted 13 weeks was because the city had annexed, I guess, the northwest part of the city, and they were going to open up stations 17, 18, and 19. And so they told us we were only going to be in training for 13 weeks. No, we lost four recruits in one day in training. And then we went back after our 6-month test, and we lost another 5 people. So we ended up graduating, I guess, 21. The reason why we lost some in recruit, you had to have a 70 average. And the first 4 that we lost, which we lost 4 in one day, they did not have a 70 average. Some people in my training class, David Bullens, well, the blue team, I call the blue team. That's the team I was assigned to in training. It consists of David Bullens, Bob Toller, Pete Adderton, Curtis Brown, and myself.
Blue team.
Yeah, and there were some other people I can call their names if you'd like me to call their names. We did pretty good because we graduated all our guys. And out of those 5 of us that graduated from the blue team, all of us reached the chief level. Some became fire chiefs. Yes, sir, I got a couple of funny stories I can tell you. One, I remember Captain Brooks, who later became Chief Brooks, and Chief Cox, who was our training officers. Drew Clark, which is one of the recruits. We had probably been on now probably about 8 weeks or so. And I think Drew kind of was feeling himself, thinking that he was okay. And they had us cleaning the fence, pulling the tree limbs and all that stuff up. And he went up to Chief Cox and addressed him as bruh. I don't know why he said bruh. I mean, he's always been Chief Cox, and he should have been addressed as Chief Cox, but he just felt comfortable. And we all had to clean out this dirty, nasty pool because of his immaturity, calling a training officer bruh, man, bruh. Got another funny story I can tell you.
Yeah.
This one kind of, as a recruit, they had sent us down to Station 1. And we had done something with Captain Sanders, and those of us who know Captain Sanders, he was a kind of a no-nonsense guy, and felt like all the stuff in logistics he owned. But we had done whatever we were supposed to do, and we were out at Station 1 messing around with the basketball goal. And the guys kind of asked me, could I jam the ball? So I grabbed the ball and jammed it. And one of the veteran firefighters hollered out the door, said, hey, rookies, get out of here, recruits, get out of here. And the voice sounded familiar to me. And I turned around and looked, and the guy, it was F.O., but F.O. Evans. And F.O. Evans belonged to, when I was growing up off of East Market Street, there was a group of bad guys called the Block Boys. And when I heard that voice, and these Block Boys used to take out money when we was kids. So when I heard that voice, that took me back to when I was small. I said, I know that guy. And I walked up to him, I said, hey, I know you. He said, you don't know me, rookie? I said, yeah, I know you. I said, you know what, matter of fact, I got some money in my pocket now, take it now. And we laugh about that to this day.
That's a good story.
Yeah, true story. When I joined the fire department, yes, I felt like the job was correct for me because I was always a people person. And then I was helping people, people at their worst times. Then the camaraderie among the troops at the station. And I've always played sports in my life, so I've always been a disciplined person. And the fire department is kind of based on discipline, you know, kind of like a command structure. So that really fit, you know, I had no issues with that type of structure. Yes, my first station assignment was old Station 5. My first assignment, I was assigned to Engine 5. My captain was Wayne Brown. My driver was Jerry Schamberg. Billy Combs was the other firefighter. There was a guy, I think when I got there, I don't know if he had just got promoted or moved to Station 9, by the name of Larry Cockman.
I know that fella.
Okay. But my first assignment was Engine 5, A shift. Fire department, they nicknamed me Silk. My name is Brian Staples, so my friends I grew up with, they always called me BS. I don't know why, but you know, BS was they nicknamed me that. But fire department, I picked up the name Silk from playing basketball. And it goes back to that story I told you about at Station 1. Yeah, I always tell this one back at Station 5, funny story. Edie Bailey, I got transferred from A shift to C shift with Captain Church, Edie Bailey, Skip Nix, Chris Hervin. One day we went out to put up a smoke alarm, and Edie, you would have to know Edie, this old lady, we put up the smoke detector, and the old lady was thanking each one of us. And she went to shake Edie's hand. She said, young man, I want to thank you. And The Edie, without hesitation, said, "Have you ever seen a young man with tatas like this?" And we all just fell out. Embarrassed the old lady. I never, I never will forget that story. Yeah. You have to know Edie Bailey, but she actually said that and did that. As a rookie, my assignment, duties at the fire station, what I would do, of course, as a rookie, they have you to clean up the bathroom. I was at station headquarters. We had the commander there. Chief Flowers was assigned there. And so part of my assignment was I had to go clean up his office. Back then there was no computers, nothing like that. So he had a book that I had to make sure that I had listed all the calls that happened overnight. And so the first thing he wanted on his desk was those calls, because like I said, back then there was no computer, so there was no way of firehouse or looking up the calls. Mm-hmm. So I had to literally write down all the calls in Battalion 1 and have them on his desk. Putting up the flag first thing in the morning, taking it down at 5 o'clock. All the runs to the grocery stores to buy the food fell on the rookie. We had the battalion chief at the station, so make sure his car was clean and ready. It just, but that was okay. I didn't mind doing it. Of course, when the rookie came in after me, I handed everything off to that rookie. Cooking is very important in the fire department. It bonds you. It's a way of making friends. They jive you, mess with you. But they're very serious about their food, You don't mess up the food. You make sure you feed them enough. It may not taste good, but as long as they get enough, they're okay. And I always tell them that, I'm not here to fatten you up. I'm just here to get you to your wife the next morning. I guess I had a couple of favorite dishes. I always liked hot dogs. And so I measured a person who could cook by the chili that they made, And my mom had taught me how to make chili. And so I felt like, which is a simple meal, I always did that. And I didn't really have a grill growing up, but then we learned at the fire station that every station had grills. So you learn how to grill food, chicken and stuff like that, pork chops. If you couldn't cook at the fire station, yes, you live very hard. They talk junk to you. But really, at the end of the day, they will step in and help you because, like I say, they want to eat, but they want you to learn how to cook. And eventually, you'll get you a meal that you feel like you're comfortable with. And depending on how many people sign at the station, like a two-company station, you have to cook about every 8th day or something like that. So that was a good thing. Saturday is the special day for hot dogs at the fire station. Yeah. You can go to any fire station, I know in Greensboro on Saturdays, and they should be cooking hot dogs for lunch. Today's fire stations, the way they are built, I had been promoted, so when I was coming up through the ranks, I always slept in a dormitory setting. I never was in a station that had the cubicles. I didn't get private, bedroom until I got promoted, and I realized the first day I got promoted and I slept in a private room that was different. But like I said, I was promoted at the time. But as a firefighter, I never was at a station that had cubicles. My opinion on dormitory living or cubicle living, I would say the dormitory is probably the better. The cubicle to me is like you're kind of isolated, private. You don't really have that openness, you kind of go off by yourself. And like I say, if you're at those bigger stations, you may be in a bedroom and there's 10 cubicles, but there's only 4 or 5 people in there. And that's, to me, it's not closeness.
Okay.
Today's firefighters in their downtime is playing with their phones, playing with their iBoxes, playing technology. that's what they do. I mean, I see it with my grandkids, you know, grandkid come over to the house, she's on the phone the whole time. And today's firefighter is the same. Yes, our phones today, the technology today, I mean, it's good for what it does, but as far as relationships with humans, interaction with humans, no. I think it's essential for today's firefighter to take a little time out to talk to a retiree when he visits the stations, because he learns about what he used to be. There's things that we did, there's stories that we can tell. The equipment, I know advancement is great, there's nothing wrong with that, but it just helps to build their knowledge. If I visit a station 10 years from now and firefighters took time with me, it would show me some appreciation, you know, some love. Maybe they heard my name. You know, maybe they want to get to know the person, you know, because give an example, when I came through the fire department, we had law books. Then we went to the firehouse. So, I saw it myself, the newer firefighters that would get the law books that were at the old station, and they would look at the calls. And so that would be an opportunity if I went by a station 10 years from now, if they had law books there, they'd say, hey, can you tell me about this call? Or do you remember this call? So I could share that with them.
Good.
I don't remember my first call. I remember a couple of calls riding out of Station 5. We were going downtown. They used to have something called the green band. It was the lights would change when you're going downtown. Now today they got the intercom on the trucks, but we would ask for the band. And from Station 5 we would respond downtown. And where Friendly and Market Street comes together, I was sitting on the back of the truck, open cab truck, and all of a sudden I saw the front end running to the truck. And Edie Bailey was driving. Truck was still getting it. I had to tap on the window to tell them we've been hit by a car. Car had run into the tire, knocked the hose off the truck. I'm watching all this take place. The hoses come off the back of the truck. The air packs we used to have in the compartment had come open. The car is doing a 360, but it never phased the fire truck. And so I remember tapping on the window to tell her to stop. And I mean, that actually happened. Another call I remember going on, it was on Acock, where it crosses over Spring Garden Street. Big two-story house was on fire. Captain Barnett was my captain at the time. And again, one of the duties as a rookie, you would catch the hydrant. So my job was to catch a hydrant. Fire, the house, had a working house fire. The truck had stopped. I grabbed a 3-inch hose off the back. The hydrant was across the street. Smoke was coming down in the street. So I grabbed the hose and I'm running over to catch the hydrant. You know, catching the hydrant means attaching the hydrant, hose to the hydrant, turning on, getting water to the truck. And all of a sudden, the hose is going down the street past me. Well, some car didn't stop, but the hose had wrapped around the rear end of the car. Luckily, there was a gas station that was across the street, and they witnessed all this, and they stopped the car, and they actually helped me break the coupling off. And keep in mind that we got a house fire, and we got rocking and rolling, and I was able to, the guys from the fire station came and helped me break the hose loose. I reattached it, and Captain Barnett, you got to know him, he was yelling and hollering, but I think he saw what had happened as well, and we had to write a letter. First time I had to write a letter, but it wasn't no fault of mine, but it was just one of those teachable moments. And later on, I became a training officer, and I would teach hose in the department and training, and that would be one of the questions I would put on my test. What would you do if this happened? And it was just the thing that give them something to think about, because it could happen. Had a couple of big fires. First big fire I went on was when we implemented the incident command system. When I first came on, there was no such thing as the incident command system as we know it today. You know, those divisions, sector, that. We didn't have, you know, extra radios assigned, walkers and that stuff. And I think it was the circus always come to town, and around October, and just so happened the train tracks where the cars would come in, they caught fire. And the incident command system was put in place. We got the fire, but it was one of those things that nobody had really fully understood at that time, which was another good lesson. You know, we had a talk discussion afterwards. And the biggest fire that went on happened when I was assistant commander. Captain Sutter was in the fire. This was on Am Street. They were dispatched on a car fire in the building. And I think when Captain Sutter en route to the fire, he thought maybe it was more than that, so he called for a full alarm. I was at lunch at the time, and then when I heard full alarm, second alarm, I had the option to add myself to the call, and I did. And I was responding from the training center. And when I got there, Chief Van Wert was Car 2, who was in command. I walked up to him, and I had Chief Gerald in the car with me, who was from training. And I walked up to him, and as I'm talking to him, I hear we got a down firefighter. And we kind of looked at each other, and I knew that was going to be an issue. And so I took command, ended up, Captain Sutter, who was assigned to Engine 11, the roof collapsed on it, along with crew from Ladder 7. And I think we ended up, it was like 4 firefighters who was trapped, but Ladder 7's crew actually got out by themselves. But Captain Sutter, the roof collapsed on him. Luckily, the training center staff had responded as well, along with Captain Haney had responded as well. And we had a full rescue in place. We ended up going to a 4th alarm, and the reason I called for 2 additional alarms because we had training, and they said anytime you have a firefighter down, call for another alarm. Somewhere in the transmission that we wasn't sure, we knew we had one down, but like I said, we ended up with a whole nother crew, so that's why I called for 2 additional alarms. Ended up, Captain Sutter was trapped. Training staff, Captain Hall, was able to get him out along with the other people. The rescue sector was able to get him out. He was unconscious. They did CPR on him. He was burned. He was pretty much gone. And they did CPR on him. Other firefighters, I think one guy broke his leg, the other had some other burns, but Captain Sutter was the most serious one.
Flatlined.
Yes, yes. Ended up transferring him to Wake Forest Baptist Hospital. And the bad part about that day was his last day at Station 11, which was part hazmat. They rotate every 2 years. So this was like January the 30th, which was his last day, his last shift there. And here he was, this happened to him. I think he ended up being out of work for almost a year. But he's recuperated and he's back at work. 9/11, I remember that day because I actually was working in the fire department that day. I had come out of training. I was assigned to Engine 1. And we had a dumpster fire that day. So I did not know what had happened till we got back to the station, and one of the towers had already been struck. And so when we got back to the station, I was able to see the second structure when it was hit by the airplane. It was touching, you know, to see what was going on. And you knew as a firefighter that those guys and girls and all was risking their lives to save people. Didn't expect the buildings to collapse, but they did. In Greensboro, the people brought food by the stations. We would be riding down the street, people would salute us. We'd be in the store, people would pay for our food. I mean, it was just overwhelming, the support that we got. I have a lady now that I used to work with, part-time job. I mean, this lady still calls me to this day. She asked me to get her a brick, you know, and I promised her, you know, I'd get her a brick.
And
but
you can get them today.
Yes. But yes, it affected me, it affected my family, my wife, you know, she had questions, my family had questions, my mother had questions, you know, I got phone calls. But yeah, it definitely affected. Yes, I had mentors, several mentors. I mean, I can't name them all, but yes, training, I give credit to the training staff who was at the time, like I say, Captain Brooks and Chief Cox. Then going to Station 5, my captains, because like I said, being a rookie, and I didn't know, that was my first day in the fire station was my first day in the fire station. And I remember David Spears, who was at the time was just a firefighter, but he was assigned to Squad 1. And it was like, I knew he was going to be a training officer, but he would pull me to the side and talk to me, and he ended up going to training. Of course, David Spears, I think anybody would not even question, probably one of the smartest firefighters person in the Greensboro Fire Department. So he kind of took me to the side and took care of me. Randy Gordon was another one who was assigned to the squad, same squad. They called him Goat Farmer. But Randy was kind of the play guy, you know. And then there was Joey McIntyre, who was the third guy. But I knew Joey from when I worked at the City Lakes, because Joey was a big fisherman. And so now here I was working with him, the same guy who I would see on the weekends. Chris Herbin was another one, Captain Church. I just had several throughout my career. I mean, everybody would give me little nuggets, everybody would help me. Never really run into any bad guys, you know, but I think everywhere I went, every assignment I had, there was always somebody who worked with me or who was above me, helped me out. Some of the challenges that African Americans had in the fire service.
Yeah.
Well, when I came on in 1984, some of the original firefighters that integrated the Greensboro Fire Department in 1961 were still there. I mentioned earlier about Chief Flowers. He was one of those 28 firefighters. What people didn't know about Chief Flowers and when Chief Flowers attended A&T University, he stayed with his aunt. And his aunt stayed in the apartment complex that I stayed in, and which was probably about 4 doors down from where I stayed. And so my mom remembered Chief Flowers. Of course, I didn't know him. I think he went back in the 50s. Mm-hmm. I was only born in 58. So when I come on the department, she reminded me of that, and I was cleaning up his room. I would say, "Hey, you remember Marion Staples?" Yeah, I remember her. So we kind of built a bond. And so he would talk to me about his days integrating the fire department. He would give me little things to work with and say, "Hey, this is what you need to do." I called him Chief Carmen because he was a chief when he retired, but Robert Carmen Sr., he was a captain in Engine 6 when I come on. And it was the same shift that I was on, and Station 5 and Engine 6 rode together a lot. And I saw him as he was getting promoted to battalion chief. He had a funny voice, he was Staples, he would talk to me, you know. Robert Graves was another one. He was kind of a young guy at the time. He was older than me, but young, but he was working his way up, and he would tell me about some things he was dealing with. Chris Herbin was another guy. Matter of fact, Chris Herbin was the first person that I met when I walked in Old Station 5. And you have to know Chris, he's got that funny voice, you know, and they call him Radio, and he talked all the time. And he pulled me to the side and, you know, say, hey, this is what you need to watch out, this is what you need to do. And I ended up being on the shift with Chris Herbin. Mike Henson, I mentioned Mike Henson. Knew Mike, like I say, before I come on the fire department, so he always worked with me. Me personally, every station that I was assigned to, in my earlier days, I would probably be the only African American that would be assigned to that station or that shift. But there was others at the other stations, especially in my recruit class. And Curtis Brown, who is still on department now, who was on the blue team. You know, we were friends, family, you know, weddings and all that stuff together. So we always talked about what's going on with each other and how we're doing and kept each other going. I think the brotherhood and sisterhood is closer, and gender and race doesn't matter when the alarm goes off, is because of what we talked about earlier, that station life, cooking together, sleeping together, families, you know, vacation together. You can be the baddest cook, the worst cook in the world, but when the alarm goes off, it don't matter. You know, you can be whatever, it doesn't matter, because we all come together for a common goal to help somebody else. It's not about us, it's not about what color you are or I am. We are dispatched to help that person, which we don't matter, it doesn't matter what color they are, or what race or ethnicity or religion, it doesn't matter. Our job is to help that person. And if I could say this, I'll go back and say, I was born in 1958. My elementary school was, this is before integration, was segregated, but it was based because of where you live. In 1970, I'm going to the 8th grade when they started busing. So I was bused from the east side of town to Mendenhall, which is predominantly white, New Urban Park.
Right.
And from there I went to Page and went on to college. So I wasn't totally segregation my whole life. And where I grew up was beside Highway 29. And we would have white, black, it didn't matter who broke down on that highway. Our house faced the highway and people would knock on our door. And it didn't matter what color you were. My mother would let you use the phone, or father would give you gas or whatever. So I kind of grew up around respecting people, treating people fair. Yeah, I think it added too. I mean, I think, like I say, fundamentally because of my parents. I mean, yeah, I could have took a left, you know, early in my life, you know. But I always had those strong parents, you know, and they always taught me to be kind to everyone. And like I say, being a person that involved in sports, I'm always around people. The position I played in basketball was point guard, and as a point guard, you get people involved. And that's just, I guess, my nature. Female firefighters, my first introduction was Edie Bailey.
Say no more, huh?
There was 3 female firefighters at Station 5 when I came on. Edie Bailey, Anita Strong, and Debbie Butler. Debbie Butler was on A shift. But you know, and Anita, they call her Stretch.
Right.
You know, I'm not going into all of that. But like say, Debbie, I was only with Debbie probably a year when I got transferred to C shift with Edie. Mm-hmm. And Edie just ruined me from that point on. I mean, the things that she was saying, dude. Yeah. So I had no problems working female firefighters. Yes, faith played a big part in my life. Pray, you know. Firefighting is a dangerous job. I mean, if you don't have faith and you dealing with danger day in and day out and not knowing what the next call is going to involve, you're missing something. There's got to be a higher person that saves you en route, doing whatever you're doing and brings you back safe, because that you could have been that person on the other end. Good advice that I would give to a firefighter, especially a recruit, and this is what I always talk to the recruits that I had. You have to maintain a 70 average to pass, which is okay. But that 30% that you don't try to learn, that may be the 30% that hurt you, that'll get you killed. So why not try to learn 100%? And that's the main thing I would tell them. Yeah, if you just want to do average and make a 70 and keep your job, that's fine. But there's 30% out there that you may be questioned, or you may come up on a call, and you need to know that. So try to do better than 70%. Strive for 100%. Well, I would like to say that joining the fire department was a good move. I think it was the right move for me. Like I said, I was a newlywed. I had 3 jobs. I needed something consistent. Fire department, I was able to buy multiple cars. I was able to buy my first house, homes, have a retirement. I was able to travel. I was able to see things that you wouldn't ordinarily see as a person. I was able to join the training division, see another side of the fire department. I was able to meet people from literally all over the world, because we had people from Sweden that came in one time to the training center to talk about a burn, I was able to travel to Florida. I was able to travel to New York, Atlanta, different places. On the fire department, the city's money. I was able to go to Emmitsburg Fire Academy. My degree from college was physical education. I was able to use that as a training officer. I was national teacher certified, so I was able to use my schooling back in the fire department as a training officer. The people that I met, I had 3 recruit classes, 62 people that actually graduated that I called my kids, and now I see them moving up through ranks. A couple of them have made battalion chief. My recruit class, we had a pretty strong class. I think we had four guys that actually made fire chief somewhere else. We had at one time, 3 of us were assistant chiefs. Probably got 10 of us that were battalion chiefs. The camaraderie, the people that you met, the things that you learned. I'm not a mechanic, but there were mechanics on the fire department. I'm not a plumber. There was plumbers on the fire department that I could ask a question. Jimmy Williams, big head Jimmy Williams, was a great cook. David Spears, I saw him a couple weeks ago, talked to him. Captain Church, still a good friend. He was my captain when I was very young. His son, came on and actually worked for me at one time before he went into training. My son joined the fire department. He committed suicide about 1.5 years, But I was able to get through that. And actually the day it happened, I was coming into work, but I didn't hear the call, which I'm glad I didn't, But, that was probably my toughest day. I had to go tell my wife, what had happened. And I know it was nothing but the Lord, because that day, my normal route to work, I was detoured. And if I had kept my same route, I would have been at the station and would have heard the call. I would have heard the address and I would have responded and would have saw him, but luckily I got detoured and I didn't hear it, But having to go tell her that what had happened was unquestionably the toughest day of my life, and my other son being at home expecting his brother to come take him to school that day, So, we were able to get through that, and the fire department, was the world's best. They treated us family. They took care of us. Skip, I had worked with Skip Pryor, known him. I remember him coming up to the house that day, bringing some food. Edie Bailey, of all the people, she brought over some tissue, a big case of tissue. And that actually was good because people coming over the house using the bathroom, we would have ran out of tissue. But, you know, Edie, that's just how she is, you know. People came over and mowed their yard for us, took care of us. They told me to take off as much time as I wanted to take off. When I got back to work, I mean, they treated me, you know, didn't look crazy at me or nothing like that, you know, because you feel like the world's looking at you when something like that happened. But, I mean, they treated me with utmost respect and took care of us. And the fire department's been good. I mean, I would highly recommend it. I would do it again. Probably not much I would change from what happened, but I would definitely do it again. And Chief Cockman, I still always call you Chief Cockman. You know, just like my first grade teacher, I'm always gonna call her Miss Donnell.
I do.
But you know, it was tough. I mean, your father told you right. And I tell anybody, you can lose a parent, you know, but losing a child, ain't nothing like losing a child. Yeah. And it just ain't supposed to be that way. You know, and the way I was able to deal with it, like I said, because I think the fire department had helped me. It really did. It made me stronger. And I realized going through that mourning process, you know, he was 25, you know. Some people don't have 25 years with the kid. You know, some people don't have but a day. You know, I said, hey, I had 25 years. You know, don't make it any easier, you know, and don't make it any better, but, you know, we good. We good with it, you know. Y'all done made me cry.
We hope you enjoyed watching these documentaries. It was our goal to share and preserve the memories of our retired Greensboro firefighters. It is our desire that these documentaries will inspire future generations to continue the brotherhood, sisterhood, and camaraderie while always striving for excellence in their careers. While fire apparatus, equipment, and technology have improved, several things will always remain the same. The courage and bravery it takes to mitigate natural and man-made disasters will always be a part of the job. Although our retirees are no longer a physical part of the GFD world, a giant piece of each retiree's memories have been shared with you today. These memories will be in their hearts and minds forever. A special thank you goes out to Captain Harold Haney for his many long hours of recording and editing. Thank you, Harold. A job well done.